People keep asking me, why do you still compare India and Pakistan? But in 2026, I honestly believe this comparison no longer makes sense. Not because one country is perfect. Not because the other has no potential. But because both nations are now walking on completely different paths, facing different realities and futures. This video is not about hate, ego, or propaganda. It's about facts, direction, and truth. Watch till the end, because sometimes the hardest truth is also the most necessary one. If you believe discussion should be based on facts, not hatred, and honesty matters more than noise, subscribe to the channel for grounded, respectful, and real conversations about global realities. Economic scale is no longer comparable. By 2026, India and Pakistan exist on completely different economic scales. India has grown into one of the world's largest economies, driven by manufacturing, technology, exports, startups, and strong domestic consumption. Its foreign reserves, investor confidence, and global trade partnerships continue to expand. Pakistan, meanwhile, faces recurring economic crises, high inflation, currency instability, and heavy dependence on international bailouts. When one country plans long-term economic expansion and the other focuses on short-term survival, comparison loses meaning. This gap is not about pride or nationalism, it's about numbers, stability, and economic direction. Comparing two economies moving at entirely different speeds creates misunderstanding rather than clarity. Global influence has shifted dramatically. In 2026, India plays an active role in shaping global decisions. It is consulted on climate action, technology cooperation, defense partnerships, and regional stability. India's presence in global forums like the G20, Quad, and BRICS reflects growing international trust. Pakistan's global influence, however, has weakened due to internal instability and inconsistent foreign policy. Influence today depends on economic strength, political reliability, and long-term vision, not just history. When one nation helps set global agendas and the other struggles to maintain diplomatic leverage, comparisons feel outdated. The international community clearly views both countries through very different lenses now. Political stability creates a major divide. Political stability is one of the biggest reasons comparison no longer works. India, despite internal disagreements, maintains institutional continuity, regular elections, and predictable governance. This stability builds confidence among citizens, investors, and global partners. Pakistan, in contrast, continues to experience political uncertainty, frequent leadership changes, and civil-military tensions. Constant instability disrupts policy implementation and long-term planning. A country cannot grow consistently when its political direction keeps changing. Comparing a system that plans decades ahead with one that struggles for continuity is unfair. Stability does not mean perfection, but it does create momentum, which clearly separates the two nations in 2026. Infrastructure development is on different levels. India in 2026 is undergoing a massive infrastructure transformation. Expressways, metro systems, ports, airports, digital connectivity, and renewable energy projects are reshaping the country. Infrastructure is no longer limited to big cities, it's reaching smaller towns and rural areas. Pakistan, however, faces funding shortages, delayed projects, and maintenance challenges. Infrastructure reflects national priorities, and India's focus is long-term growth and efficiency. When one country invests heavily in future-ready systems and the other struggles to sustain basic infrastructure, comparison becomes unrealistic. Development paths matter more than intentions, and those paths are no longer aligned. National strength is defined differently. In 2026, national strength is no longer measured only by military power. India balances defense modernization with economic growth, diplomacy, technology, and global partnerships. Pakistan has historically emphasized military strength, often at the cost of social and economic development. This imbalance has long-term consequences. A strong nation needs education, healthcare, innovation, and economic opportunity alongside security. When priorities differ so fundamentally, outcomes will also differ. Comparing two countries with completely different definitions of power creates confusion. True strength today is multidimensional, and that gap has widened significantly by 2026. Youth opportunities are not equal. A nation's future depends on its youth, and in 2026, opportunities for young people differ sharply. Indian youth increasingly access startups, digital platforms, global job markets, and skill-based careers. Government and private sectors both invest heavily in education and innovation ecosystems. Pakistani youth, however, face unemployment, rising living costs, and limited opportunities, leading to frustration and migration. When young populations experience such different realities, national futures naturally diverge. Comparing countries without considering youth opportunity gaps ignores the most important factor of development. Hope, access, and opportunity matter, and these are not evenly distributed in 2026. Technology and innovation gap is wide. India has positioned itself as a global technology hub by 2026. From IT services and fintech to space missions, digital payments, AI, and semiconductor ambitions, India's innovation ecosystem continues to expand. Pakistan has talent and potential, but lacks the stable environment and investment needed to scale innovation nationally. Technology growth depends on policy consistency, infrastructure, and global trust. When one country exports technology solutions to the world and the other struggles to build a supportive ecosystem, comparisons lose relevance. Innovation is not about intelligence, it's about systems. And those systems are very different today. Global image has changed significantly. Global perception plays a powerful role in shaping opportunities. In 2026, India is widely viewed as a rising power, confident, ambitious, and reliable. This image attracts investors, tourists, and strategic partners. Pakistan's global image, unfortunately, is often shaped by crisis narratives, political instability, and economic uncertainty. Image is not created by slogans, it's built through consistent actions over time. When the world responds differently to two nations, it reflects deeper structural realities. Comparing countries without acknowledging this perception gap ignores how global systems actually work. National priorities are completely different. India's priorities in 2026 focus on manufacturing growth, self-reliance, exports, digital governance, and global competitiveness. Long-term planning defines policy decisions. Pakistan, however, remains largely focused on crisis management, political blame, and short-term fixes. When priorities differ so sharply, outcomes naturally diverge. Comparing nations fighting different battles creates misleading conclusions. Development requires focus, patience, and consistency. Without aligned priorities, comparison becomes an emotional debate rather than a factual discussion. Constant comparison creates more harm than value. By 2026, comparing India and Pakistan often fuels online toxicity rather than understanding. Every country has strengths and weaknesses, but constant comparison turns development into rivalry. Progress should be measured internally, by how lives improve, not by outperforming a neighbor. When comparisons stop helping people grow, they lose their purpose. Understanding realities is more powerful than competing narratives. That is why, in 2026, comparison no longer serves either nation positively.